I'm here today, standing in the Tunku Abdul Rahman Memorial. For those of you who are not familiar with Tunku Abdul Rahman, he was the first Prime Minister of Malaysia. I was born in those generations where we live in a country where civil liberties pretty much more or less guaranteed. And you have a Prime Minister at that time who, well, he has never hide the fact. Everyone in Malaysia knows that Tunku Abdul Rahman loves to play poker, drinks whiskey, like horse racing. So you have a country where all this are accepted, even though he's the Prime Minister, and it goes down all the way to the level of the ordinary Malaysian. We have two elections, state elections coming. Even though they're state elections, they have national consequences. The question that many Malaysians are asking, what next? What happens after that? Even though a certain political coalition may win, then, people will hop, jump to another party, then you get the kind of instability all over again. So will this continue? Will we be able to finally see some solution to the prolonged uncertainty that the country has been facing? On the 4th and 5th December, the two talks, we will explore these issues. These are not simple issues, but the fact that they're not simple issues do not mean that they do not concern you, that they do not concern the future of your family and the future generations. They will affect them severely. So if you would like to have a talk that will address these issues in a frank, objective, non-political manner, together with economic aspects of it, then come and listen. And then join us in a lively Q&A session. So remember, Malaysia used to be what it was like where Tunku Abdul Rahman, as a Prime Minister, was able to admit openly that he loves to have a round of poker every now and then, who drinks whiskey, to a situation now where even the word Timah can create a lot of controversy. Is that where we're heading? And more importantly, what is next for Malaysia? I'm here today, standing in the Tunku Abdul Rahman Memorial. For those of you who are not familiar with Tunku Abdul Rahman, he was the first Prime Minister of Malaysia. I was born in those generations where we live in a country where civil liberties pretty much more or less guaranteed. And you have a Prime Minister at a time who, well, he has never hide the fact. Everyone in Malaysia knows that Tunku Abdul Rahman loves to play poker, drinks whiskey, like horse racing. So you have a country where all these are accepted, even though he's the Prime Minister, and it goes down all the way to the level of the ordinary Malaysian. We have two elections, state elections coming. Even though they're state elections, they have national consequences. The question that many Malaysians are asking, what next? What happens after that? Even though a certain political coalition may win, then, people will hop, jump to another party, then you get the kind of instability all over again. So will this continue? Will we be able to finally see some solution to the prolonged uncertainty that the country has been facing? On the 4th and 5th December, the two talks, we will explore these issues. These are not simple issues, but the fact that they're not simple issues do not mean that they do not concern you, that they do not concern the future of your family and the future generations. They will affect them severely. So if you would like to have a talk that will address these issues in a frank, objective, non-political manner, together with economic aspects of it, then come and listen. And then join us in a lively Q&A session. So remember, Malaysia used to be what it was like where Tunku Abdul Rahman is a Prime Minister who was able to admit openly that he loves to have a round of poker every now and then, who drinks whiskey, to a situation now where even the word Timah can create a lot of controversy. Is that where we're heading? And more importantly, what is next for Malaysia? I'm here today, standing in the Tunku Abdul Rahman Memorial. For those of you who are not familiar with Tunku Abdul Rahman, He was the first Prime Minister of Malaysia. I was born in those generation where we live in a country where civil liberties pretty much more or less guaranteed. And you have a Prime Minister at a time who, well, he has never hide the fact. Everyone in Malaysia knows that Tunku Abdul Rahman loves to play poker, drinks whiskey, like horse racing. So you have a country where all these are accepted, even though he's the prime minister, and it goes down all the way to the level of the ordinary Malaysian. We have two elections, state elections coming. Even though they're state elections, they have national consequences. The question that many Malaysians are asking, what next? What happens after that? Even though a certain political coalition may win, then, people will hop, jump to another party, then you get the kind of instability all over again. So will this continue? Will we be able to finally see some solution to the prolonged uncertainty that the country has been facing? On the 4th and 5th December, the two talks, we will explore these issues. These are not simple issues, but the fact that they're not simple issues do not mean that they do not concern you, that they do not concern the future of your family and the future generations. They will affect them severely. So if you would like to have a talk that will address these issues in a frank, objective, non-political manner, together with economic aspects of it, then come and listen. And then join us in a lively Q&A session. So remember, Malaysia used to be what it was like where Tunku Abdul Rahman, as a Prime Minister, who was able to admit openly that he loves to have a round of poker every now and then, who drinks whiskey, to a situation now where even the word Timah can create a lot of controversy. Is that where we're heading? And more importantly, what is next for Malaysia?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our live stream today. By way of introduction, I am Sharina, your MC for today. In this live session, we will be sharing with you a sneak preview of our upcoming virtual conference, Malaysia's Economic and Stock Market Outlook, Is There Hope for Malaysia?, which will be held on the 4th and 5th December. To all of you, please do show us some love by liking and subscribing to our live stream. We are also running a simple poll here. Feel free to submit your response. You can see it under the comment section. As a brief introduction, Capital Dynamics is the organizer of our virtual conferences being held on the 4th and 5th December. Founded in 1988 by Mr. Tan Teng Bu, we are Asia's first global investment company with presence in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and Sydney. Our core business includes fund management, investment advisory, and investment education. We are always sharing our investment insights with our followers on our social media channels. If you enjoy our contents, show us some support by hitting the like button and subscribe button on our Facebook and YouTube channels. Now, we have a special reward for those of you who are online today. We are giving away a 30-day complimentary digital access to our flagship investment publication, iCapital. Now, what is iCapital? Published by Capital Dynamics Sdn Bhd, the first independent investment advisor in Malaysia, iCapital provides you with objective investment research and analysis on local and global stock markets and economies. iCapital is available in tabloid, online, and mobile app. It is also available in English and Mandarin. Now hurry up and register for the 30-day complimentary digital access now. You may find the link to register at the comment section of our YouTube and Facebook Live. If you cannot find the link, do not worry. Just comment "I want" and my team will PM you later. Now, I would like to pass the floor over to Ms. Tan Man Lin, our Deputy CEO of Capital Dynamics.
Thank you, Serena. Good evening, friends of iCapital. Very happy to see all of you today. I have a simple, happy announcement to make. On behalf of Capital Dynamics Australia Limited, we have already launched our iCapital Asia Pacific ex-Japan BTB Fund. This fund will be managed out of our Sydney office. And for those who are concerned with what's happening in Malaysia and who wants to diversify their currency or country risk, you can consider investing in this new fund of ours. The initial offering period has already started and it will last up till 14 January 2022. So during this initial offering period, all the units will be issued at Australian dollar, $1. So the fund will be denominated in Aussie dollar, and the minimum investment amount is just 5,000 Aussie dollar. The primary objective of the fund is to generate income for investors. So the fund will be investing in mainly dividend-paying securities in the Asia Pacific region. And because of that, the management fee is fixed at just 0.5125%. And for those who are interested to know more, you can go to our Australian website, www.capitaldynamics.com.au, to download the fund documents. And we have also lined up a series of roadshows nationwide starting from 6th of December, both virtual and also physical, including in cities like Ipoh, Penang, Malacca, and JB. So for those who are online now, if you can, just leave in the comment section where you are joining this live session from, and whether we'll be able to meet you at the roadshows later on. And if you can, also let us know whether you prefer a physical or virtual event, just for our future reference. Then the next thing is we have also launched our investor portal for the Australian office. So if you are not able to visit our offices, you can just visit our investor portal available on iportal.capitaldynamics.com.au. You can subscribe and open an investment account with our office without coming to us physically. Okay, with that, I'll pass the rest of session to Teng Bu.
Hi everyone, good evening, and I hope you all have had a good dinner. Let me just quickly share with you the results of the poll that we conducted. On the first question, who will win the most seats in the Malacca state election? In Facebook, 75% say that Barisan Nasional will win. I think Ismail Sabri will be very happy if he's joining us tonight. On YouTube, Barisan Nasional also wins with a 60% majority. So it looks like if that is the case, then a lot of what I'm going to say on the 4th or 5th December may have to be changed. Because if Barisan Nasional can win, then I think the present government would most likely be strengthened and be able to continue running the country until the next general election. And the next question, the next polling question, are you bullish on the KLSE? Facebook, 21% say no, and on YouTube, 87% say yes. Sorry. On Facebook, 21% say yes, they are bullish. On YouTube, 87% say they are bullish on KLSE. So Facebook, the result of Facebook and YouTube are completely different from one another. Now, I guess that's the reason why the KLSE is moving sideways. On the one hand, you have people bullish, on the one hand, you have people bearish. So in the end, it's moving sideways. Next. Will the Ismail Sabri administration last longer than the Muhyiddin administration. On Facebook, 38% say yes. On YouTube, 62% say yes. So the results tonight are very interesting because from what we get in Facebook and YouTube, they seem to be contradictory. And within Facebook itself or within YouTube itself, the results are also not consistent. And for example, Ismail Sabri in Facebook get only 38%, they'll stay longer than we did. But then in Facebook, the big majority says that Barisan Nasional will win. So if Barisan Nasional will win, wouldn't that strengthen Ismail Sabri's hand at the federal level? So maybe the polling results that we get is the result of the confusion of what the whole country is facing. Nevertheless, let me just ask very quickly whether the Malaysians know why the 7th Prime Minister resigned in February 2020. For those who would like to share your answer, please send us a message. Why you think the 7th Prime Minister resigned last year in February? Do we have any? Okay. Nevertheless, the way I interpret it is this. Most Malaysians were happy, elated when Pakatan won in 2018. And most Malaysians, including the Chinese, the Malays, the Indians, were thinking that Malaysia is, well, there's a new Malaysia coming along the way under the 7th Prime Minister. Famous, very well-known Malaysians like Dennis Ignatius, Kun Yu Yin, all supported the 7th Prime Minister in 2018. So then when he resigned in February 2020, many of them were shocked. I wasn't. I definitely was already very skeptical, very critical of the 4th Prime Minister, of the 7th Prime Minister. And the way I look at it is this. The reason why he resigned in February 2020, basically he's killing two birds with one stone, right? And what are the two birds? First, he has really knocked Najib out in 2018. And then by resigning in February 2020, he's also knocked out Pakatan Harapan. He never wanted a country where a multiracial type of coalition like Pakatan Harapan, where DAP and even Keadilan, which is quite multiracial, would be running the country. So here is this person who's always out to try to get his racial objective achieved, and in the process of that, he has been able to knock out, destroy what potentially could have been a government of Malaysia that would take us back to the era of the 1960s. In the 60s, things were a lot different. Malaysia was a lot more liberal and society was a lot more civil. So that is my interpretation, and why I'm sharing this is that because what is going to happen in Malacca has got national consequences. What is going to happen in Sarawak has got national consequences. This may be state election, but the consequences are nationwide. And what happens at the political level, of course, will definitely have an impact, either positive or negative, on the Malaysian economy, right? And what happens to the economy and what happens at the political level, of course, will drive the stock market direction. For many of us, you may not realize that the KRCI has not really
had any form of rally. I mean, leaving aside very scattered type of isolated rallies like among glove stock, among semiconductor stock, generally on the whole, the KLSE, the KLCI has been trending downwards for the last 5 to 6 years. So what is going to happen politically will influence economics, and then these two will, of course, have major impact on the direction of the stock market. And this is not including the fact that we are now, not just Malaysia, but the whole world is living in a global environment which is different. It is a post-pandemic environment where governments all over the world are really at a loss as to what they should do. And not only do we have to live in a post-pandemic environment, there's also the issue which I suppose hasn't received much attention in Malaysia, climate change. I am very convinced that the climate change is here to stay. I'm very convinced that the Paris Agreement, the COP26 in Glasgow will do nothing. The way I look at it is the warming is it's a choice of either we have 1.5 degree Celsius or 2 degree or 2.5, or in the worst case maybe even 3 degrees. So I'm based on various reasons, I'm very convinced that climate change is irreversible. So we meaning in case of Malaysia, we have to deal with a post-pandemic environment. We have to deal with a global economy that's uncertain. We have to deal with political uncertainties. How are you going to navigate the stock market? How are you going to navigate your investment in this kind of very unprecedented landscape? So the other thing that we may not have realized is that, for example, in terms of Malaysia's position in Southeast Asia, we find that we have lost out to almost every competitor in Southeast Asia. Many years ago, our exports were larger than Vietnam in absolute terms. We were about maybe the same as Thailand many years ago. Now, Thailand in absolute terms has gone ahead of us. In growth rate, it has also gone ahead of us. And the more surprising thing is, in absolute terms, in growth rate terms, Vietnam exports have grown much faster than Malaysia. That is because Vietnam exports started from a very low base. But even though they started from a very low base, exports from Vietnam in absolute amount have gone ahead of Malaysia's exports. So where do we stand? Where does Malaysia stand? How are we going to, we meaning the people, the Malaysians, the government, whichever government it is, how are they going to navigate a world where the pandemic is going to leave quite a long-lasting impact, where we have to deal with climate change, where we have to deal with a situation where inflation seems to be a problem in America, and global supply disruption seems to be never ending. So what do we do? What do you do as an investor in such an environment? Right? So the fact that many of you think that Barisan Nasional is going to win in Malacca, in a way, it makes the outlook for Malaysia less negative, right? And because if you imagine the other situation where the current federal government doesn't gather the support at the state level, I don't think the current administration at the federal level will be able to last that long. So you might suddenly see, or not say suddenly, you might pretty soon see another change in leadership, which of course will be extremely negative for the country's economy, will be extremely negative for the stock market. And then ahead, we have the Sarawak election, although the current administration under Ismail Sabri seems to be able to have a strong following in Sarawak, but there are already signs brewing. There are already signs that another political storm is brewing in Johor. So there's this never-ending political turmoil. So I guess by analyzing it objectively, by looking at it as an independent researcher, we should be able to come up with certain insights, that certain results that less independent person, a partisan person might not be able to see. So this is what I hope to share with you all on the 4th and 5th December, where we would be able to talk in depth over maybe 2-3 hours on this very complex issues. So I think there are some comments that I received. Can I see the comments? Okay, one comment was that the 7th Prime Minister resigned to give way to his son to be Prime Minister. I think that's quite a popular perception of why he resigned, except that quite a number of people know that his son is not interested, his son is not capable, and that although the father may wish for this to happen, the son and the other people know that it won't happen. And then there's another participant who says that so that he could open the back door for the Tuanan Melayu. In a way, yeah, that's quite similar to our interpretation that, you know, by resigning, he actually destroy the Pakatan Harapan coalition. And you could see how in that 2 odd years when he was inside, how he managed to split Keadilan, how he managed to even split DAP. And this, I think Mr. Chia, I'm guessing his gender, said that he's the one who destroyed Malaysia. I cannot disagree. I totally agree because I've always called him the destructive creator. Every time this 4th or 7th Prime Minister creates something for Malaysia, he destroys Malaysia. So that is my nickname for him, destructive creator. Okay, I guess maybe I can pass back the session to Sharina.
Now it's the Q&A session. I have here with me a few questions from Facebook and YouTube. The first question is there any discount for the Malaysia talk? Now, this event is actually worth a lot more. However, to ensure participants commit to attending, we will be charging a minimal commitment fee of 50 ringgit. The second question is, will Mr. Tan be the only speaker? Yes, indeed. The third question, how long will the actual event be? The event is expected to last between 3 to 4 hours. For the following questions, I would now like to pass it to Tingbu to answer.
Okay, the first question is, what are the ways Malaysia can do to finally attract FDI? There are many ways that Malaysia can attract FDI. We're still continuing to attract FDI. It's just that the level of FDI is much lower than what it used to be. There are many ways that Malaysia can implement, many measures that Malaysia can implement to attract FDI. The question is not what are the ways, the question is whether the Malaysian government wants to, and whether the Malaysian government is in the position to, and whether the Malaysian government has the political will to do it. So I don't when you're running the country for only 2 years, what can you do? What can you do to attract the FDI? You can't even be sure of your own survival. So the question for me, I will have to rephrase it, how can Malaysia attract? And if you put it in that way, then a lot depends on the political conditions in Malaysia as to whether there's political stability, and if there's political stability, that is a necessary requirement. But we need more than just political stability. We need the political will to attract FDI. The other question is religious conservatism in recent events like Timah or the 4D ban in Kedah, whether those have implications on Malaysia's economy. If they stay isolated like what they were in the recent months or recent weeks, then I guess the answer would be not much impact. But if you just have one or two isolated events, then they do not constitute a trend. But if you have isolated events, and there are many, many of them, so they don't become isolated events anymore, then they become a trend. Once they become a trend, then local investors, foreign investors will be thinking whether the country's environment, the country's socio-economic environment has changed. And therefore, that may make investors more cautious. They will probably want to wait and see, especially when our neighboring countries like Vietnam and Indonesia are coming up very strongly. So as of now, we have quite a few of these religious kind of unwelcome religious attraction. The impact, if it stays at this just few these events, I think the impact will be rather muted. But you don't know. In the election, in any kind of so-called democratic election, people get greedy. Political power corrupts, and they corrupt absolutely. So when people become corrupted and greedy, they can resort to all kinds of stuff. I hope that it doesn't reach that kind of level. Since Malaysia, the next question is, since Malaysia is highly dependent on oil and gas for revenue, how will she fare in a world of increasingly strict climate change regulation? Okay, this question is a very long-term question, because in the next 1 year or so, Malaysia is in a lucky spot. Crude oil price has gone up by a fair bit. It's gone up to a level above what was assumed in the budget. So that's, in a way, a slight positive for Malaysia, where we're trying to finance our budget deficit as frugally as possible. But in the longer term, that is another problem altogether. I think now it's November. I think there are early signs that the rise in crude oil price may soon be reaching its peak. It may go up a little bit more, may go up for a little bit longer, but I think by 2022, crude oil price probably would be lower than what it is now. So that is for next year. And in the longer term, in the case of climate change, now I earlier mentioned that I don't believe that global warming can be reversed or can be controlled at 1.5 degrees Celsius. I see global warming, climate changing at a higher rate than 1.5. So does that mean that there will be stricter climate change regulation? Yes and no, in the sense that there are some countries, the underlying problem with climate change, dealing with climate change, is climate justice. There's no climate justice. And if you look at the latest COP26 communique, India and China are not able to give stronger commitments on the usage of coal. But that's understandable. You can't expect India and China to move away from coal totally or at a faster pace. So in that situation where climate change is going to be 1.5 or even 2 or even 2.5 degree on an average, there'll be greater pressure on fossil fuel, right? And if there's greater pressure on fossil fuel, then oil price, the demand for crude oil most likely will be lower than what it would be. If that is the case, then the crude oil price may average out to be lower than what it would have been otherwise. So if that is the case, it's not just climate change, because Malaysia's reserves of crude oil is actually pretty low. We don't have that much reserves anymore. It's natural gas that we have a bit more, but even then, the reserves of natural gas is also quite limited. So if you look at it in terms of the amount of reserves, in terms of the tighter control on fossil fuel, then I think Malaysia must find new sources of revenue desperately, urgently. Maybe we can have one last question. Okay, it says thanks for hosting the live stream. Would I say that the 2018 election is the final nail on the coffin for Malaysia to become a multinational nation on the national economic model? Okay, that's a tough question. Actually, the 2018 election had the seventh prime minister been a gentleman, which of course he is not. He's the opposite of that. Had he been a gentleman, the 20 election, yes, all those who were bullish about, hopeful about having a new Malaysia, or a Malaysia that's more like the 1960s, that probably would have materialized. But sad to say, Malaysia's luck has run out. So you have a prime minister who betrayed people who supported him. He betrayed a lot of people. And I mean, the only thing is, I've been going around the country. I've been telling people, whoever it is that is willing to listen to me, to explain to you who he really is, what he really is, what his objectives are. I'm prepared to talk to anyone for free. It's just that not enough people listen to me. So in the end, we have people who listen to him, believe him, and then got betrayed in less than 2 years. So yes, 2018 could have been an event that could have changed the course of Malaysia's direction. But unfortunately, the result of the 2018 election was reversed 2 years later, and Malaysia, by the February 2020 vaccination, has reversed whatever good that Malaysia has achieved with the 2018 election. So I think maybe with that last question, maybe I'll pass back to Sharina.
Hi, everybody. I would now like to announce the I Wish Malaysia campaign winners. Before this, let me talk briefly about what this campaign is all about. We launched the campaign on Facebook and Instagram between 5th November to 15th of November. All participants needed to do was follow, like, share, and complete the caption, I Wish Malaysia. Now, let me announce the winners. The first winner is John Hong Heng. The second winner is Abhijay Menon. And the third winner is Koi Jian Yang. Our team will be getting in touch with the winners via Facebook Messenger on further details. That is all. We have now come to the end of the live session. Let's thank Manlin and Tengbu for their wonderful insights. We will be closing registration of our 30-day complimentary iCapital digital access in 30 minutes. So please hurry up. If you have any problem in the registration process, please PM us and our team will be happy to help you. If any of you have missed out on the 30-day complimentary iCapital digital access, do not worry, you can still join us on our next live session in Mandarin tomorrow at 8 p.m. Thank you and hope to see you at the virtual event. Bye-bye.
I'm here today, standing in the Tunku Abdul Rahman Memorial. For those of you who are not familiar with Tunku Abdul Rahman, he was the first Prime Minister of Malaysia. I was born in those generations where we live in a country where civil liberties pretty much more or less guaranteed. And you have a Prime Minister at a time who, well, he has never hide the fact. Everyone in Malaysia knows that Tunku Abdul Rahman loves to play poker, drinks whiskey, like horse racing. So you have a country where all these are accepted, even though he's the Prime Minister, and it goes down all the way to the level of the ordinary Malaysian. We have two elections, state elections coming. Even though they are state elections, they have national consequences. The question that many Malaysians are asking, what next? What happens after that? Even though a certain political coalition may win, then, people will hop, jump to another party, then you get the kind of instability all over again. So will this continue? Will we be able to finally see some solution to the prolonged uncertainty that the country has been facing? On the 4th and 5th December, the two talks, we will explore these issues. These are not simple issues, but the fact that they're not simple issues do not mean that they do not concern you, that they do not concern the future of your family and the future generations. They will affect them severely. So if you would like to have a talk that will address these issues in a frank, objective, non-political manner, together with economic aspects of it, then come and listen. And then join us in a lively Q&A session. So remember, Malaysia used to be what it was like where Tunku Abdul Rahman, as a Prime Minister, was able to admit openly that he loves to have a round of poker every now and then, who drinks whiskey, to a situation now where even the word Timah can create a lot of controversy. Is that where we're heading? And more importantly, what is next for Malaysia?
you.